All right, welcome everyone. It is Wednesday. It's 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It means it's time for the office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. This is where we share updates from the week and where you can ask questions about pretty much anything Intune, ConfigMgr, Microsoft infrastructure in general, a bit of PowerShell here and there, drivers, BIOS, imaging, the good stuff. Shall we get this show rolling, Andrew?
We shall.
All right. All right, exciting week, and great to have you back, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely has been an exciting week. Happy to. It's been a long week, so I'm always excited to hop on here. This is the highlight of the midweek for me.
Sounds good. Hopefully, we don't get any more storms because we had our fair share of those the last week, including trees coming down that had to be cut up, and my back still hurts from the weekend exercise doing that. So I'm not 25 anymore, that's for sure.
Poor Johan. I hope that you at least got some rest at the end of the weekend last week.
A little bit for sure, yeah, but that's
Good.
how things are.
That's right.
So, what's going on in the in our ecosystem?
Well, quite a few things, some big announcements, a lot of community contributions that I came across this week. But I actually wanted to start with a short demo on something that you shared last week, if you don't mind.
I love demos. I would not mind.
All right.
Here we are. Right screen even.
Perfect. Looks great. So last week you shared Sasan's guest blog post over on Jürgen's blog that basically is a set of PowerShell snippets that allow you to, or will help you, automatically create Azure AD groups, driver policies, or driver update policies, and assign those policies for you. So we've been talking about, just for a little context, we've been talking a lot over the last several months about the driver and firmware management service that's been released and now being integrated into Intune. And for what we have right now, this PowerShell script looks like it's going to make things quite a bit easier for you to get started. So I was playing around with this a little bit, and I think I've got everything cleared out now to where I can take a look at this demo again. So if I go over to my driver update profiles here in the Intune Admin Center, you can see I have a couple. I've just been playing around with them a little bit. I have a Dell drivers profile. I have an Optiplex 3060 profile. And some of these are assigned to, like the 3060 profile is really assigned to an Azure AD group. That's what it's currently called. That is a little too broad for this driver update profile. So, I think we've seen, Johan, you've recommended this. We've seen the rest of the community, I think, sort of come around and recommend creating groups for specific driver or for specific models, basically. And so if I want to go ahead and fix that now. So I have the script that Sasan wrote up over here in VS Code. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And there are a couple of things that we have to set here at the beginning. So graph version, I just happen to have the version 1 of the PowerShell Graph SDK installed on this particular workstation. But if you are using the new V2, you can change that parameter here. And then we can set a name prefix and a suffix for the Azure AD groups that are going to be created. So I'm going to change this to graph v1, and let's call this, let's do the suffix office hours. If there are any models we want to exclude, we can set those here. Probably no shock to anybody here in my home lab. Most of the devices that I have in this tenant are virtual machines, so I do want to exclude VMs. And then we can set the approval type. So for testing, I just want to have a manual approval type. I don't want anything getting approved automatically. And we can set a deferral time here. So as we look down this script, there's a function that will help get the friendly name for Lenovo models. I think this is borrowed from Damien here. So credits to Damien for adding, contributing here. And then we go ahead and connect to Graph. So I'm going to go ahead and run these things right now. And we'll make sure that we're connected to Graph there. And we're going to go ahead and grab all of our Intune devices, all of our Windows devices, which is pretty much all I have in this tenant. So we'll just verify that we that we got all of the devices. So I've got 2. All right. So this is any Windows devices that have a model attribute populated. And then this function here is going to go through and take all of the models that were returned in this previous commandlet and create the Azure AD groups for us. So I'm just going to run this loop right here. And we can see that happening in the background. So we should have a Graph V1 Dell Optiplex 3060 Office Hours Azure AD group now. Awesome. And this is actually created with a dynamic membership rule for the specific models. Then we're going to go ahead and grab the driver profiles. So I just have those couple that we looked at earlier. Get all of the Azure AD groups with the prefix that we set earlier. And then we're going to iterate through those groups and create the driver update profiles. So we're just going to run that quickly. And we can see that happening here. Some great useful output. If we go back to our Intune Admin Center, a couple of things that we can take a look at. If we go over to our groups, we can see that there is the Graph V1 Dell Optiplex 3060 Office Hours groups that we created. So that's a great start. And then if we go over to our devices, Windows, and driver updates, there we see the driver update profile that was created through that script. So I just thought this was the coolest thing, playing around with it after you shared it last week, Johan, and I wanted to show that off here today. So kudos to Sasan and Damien for providing his Lenovo model function. So really great stuff.
Awesome. Great demo. Thank you.
Absolutely. So just I was just going to share one thing. Well, really, it's 4 things from one person in the community. I happen to notice that Trevor Jones has been incredibly busy the last week with 4 different blog posts that he put out. So awesome, Trevor. Thank you for contributing all of these to the community. The first one that came out yesterday was a remediation for the Windows Boot Manager Revocations CVE. So this is just going to help you apply those registry keys that are needed for this particular update. And then if we just go back to his homepage here, and I'll share all the specific links as we normally do here. He also wrote a PowerShell function to invoke an Intune remediation script on demand and view the status of remediations. Another great blog post related to driver and firmware management, translating Windows Update driver names to friendly driver names. As I know, we've both come across, Johan, some of the drivers that show up are a little bit confusing as to what they really are, right? And then display a user notification in a Win32 app in Intune. So I thought this is a cool, clever little trick to be able to display user notifications. So thank you again, Trevor. You have been a very busy man this past week, it looks like, and just wanted to showcase some of those solutions as well. And one other thing I forgot to mention before, Johan and I were chatting a little bit before we got started here, but is your MVP renewal this month, Johan?
Yeah, I got renewed.
All right,
something
so
right.
I think that you've done a few things right, absolutely. So I totally forgot to ask before we got on. So congratulations and kudos to you, and as well as the rest of the MVPs. We just got a whole onslaught of announcements last week, and I know I wouldn't be here without you and all of the other MVPs. And what an awesome community to be a part of. So I just wanted to say congratulations to everybody on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have some news, some interesting news that we got this week that I think you probably want to share, right?
Yeah, I figured we could start with the, how's the expression goes, the elephant in the room. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. This one goes away. This one coming up. Here we are. So Microsoft is renaming Azure AD to Microsoft Entra ID. So basically the different type of functions that we're used to have, autopilot requirements and others, are all getting new names. And I'm not pleased. I was not too happy to see this change. But after sleeping on it for a little bit, there are some points for folks saying that the original name wasn't really good. It didn't really match the service that it provided, and I can get that. The challenge, at least for me, is that now everyone pretty much know that term, Azure AD. Management get it. There are like gazillions of articles, blog posts, books, and it's really hard to go in and change a written book right away once it's printed. It takes a lot of, tape to do that, and I think it just confuses everyone. So my take on this, I hope that will revert this change, but I was not a happy camper seeing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had the same kind of feeling when they rebranded the whole Defender umbrella as well, and I'm still battling, people saying Defender for Endpoint or confusing Defender for Endpoint with Defender for Identity or Defender built into the OS, and yeah, it's an interesting change. We'll have some work to do for our course materials, I think.
Yeah, luckily those are not too hard to change. It's not that, and it's all digital too. So it's like, all right, fine. It's gonna be tricky though for the recordings, but maybe new stuff will be easy. Fun stuff.
For sure.
Some other changes that was up last week was the very sad news that one of my favorite hardware is going out of business. So basically the announcement that Intel is basically not going to work with Intel NUC devices anymore in the same shape or form as they have been. It was eventually confirmed from Intel as well. It was published first by Serve the Home, and then I saw The Verge coming out with a post later. But I love these devices. I have 4 of them still that I use. It's just, they're great, they're nice, they're silent, they're fast, they're really good devices. So I remember back in the days when I was traveling the Nordics with Michael Nystrom, good friend, and he put together this magical portable data center, a Pelican case filled with NUC devices. One was a domain controller. We had 2 cluster nodes, and we had a file server and some Hyper-V host. It was just fantastic. And I've seen a lot of people building creative constructions out of these NUC devices. I've seen like a Lego tower, and each plane was a NUC device. And yeah, I'm going to miss them, unfortunately. So that's that. On the good side of news, since we have shared two that were not that fantastic, our friends up in Seattle, the Northwest System Center user group, they're having a combo meeting live as well as in person, or online live as well as in person, I should say, next Friday. So not this Friday, but the following Friday. So if you happen to be there or want to join in online, by all means do. You might recognize some of the folks presenting there. For example, our own Richard Hicks here at the Academy. He's going to talk about certificates in Intune. So that is cool. Highly, highly recommend. And of course, Peter Dahlmans, one of the authors behind many, many books in ConfigMgr and related technologies. So if you have the chance, I recommend that one. And of course, I am a little bit biased, but we have this one here up in, we mentioned that last week, I think, up in Minneapolis. Last day of July, we're doing an OST day with Michael Niehaus, Gary Blok, Terrill, David Segura, and yours truly is going to be there to talk about imaging for a day. So that'll be fun.
That will undoubtedly be an awesome day.
Yeah, it's only a 6-hour drive from where you live, Andrew.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Quick drive.
Yeah, you should just kidnap me on the way up.
I'm actually going to take a flight up there. So
all right.
I have to
tried.
go back the following day. Yeah, good call. Then we have, if anyone missed this one, yesterday was Patch Tuesday. And our friends over at Patch by PC, as usual, is posting information about these updates. And one of the more important updates is a remote code execution vulnerability that even was awarded with its CVE for this. So this one here, it's not critical, but it's flagged as important. So I would recommend to make sure that you get these updates out the door to prevent unhappiness from happening. So that's what I had in terms of updates.
Like we said, a busy week.
A busy week for sure. So let's see what questions we have coming in.
Well, we've got on YouTube, we've got Peter joining us from Costa Rica. So hello, Peter. That's pretty cool.
Hi, Peter. Yep.
Sifa's got some questions here, it looks like. So you helped with a distribution point question for him, I think, last week. Can we add more than one DP in a boundary group? We need to ensure the PC gets its content from the local DP. In case if the content is not in the local DP, get it from the next one.
Yes, absolutely. So you have a few different options there. Let me go to this lab here where I actually have 3 different distribution points. And when you configure your boundaries, you have a few options there, really. But in the boundary group, if I go to my Chicago 1 boundary group, you can see I have actually referenced all 3 distribution points in that group. And what happens when you do that is that clients that falls under that boundary is basically go to round robin in between these 3 distribution points. With the rare exception, if you have a Microsoft Connected Cache configured on all of them, it's only going to use one of them. So that poor server is usually busy. But for normal DP job, they're going to round robin and everyone is happy. If you want to control the behavior, then you can have fallback. Click the wrong link there. But you can say that this particular distribution point group or clients that are part of that boundary group, they are allowed to fall back to, say, Chicago 3 for a distribution point after 2 hours. And then I create a relationship So it will only use DPs in Chicago 1 first, and then fall back to use the ones in Chicago 3. So that's a way to control the flow of DPs. So a few different options there.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I actually had a question coming in from Bob earlier as well. I figured I can tackle that one also while I'm at it. That was a question around language packs. Basically, the question was around wanting to avoid having to redistribute multiple localized images to a bunch of different sites just to be able to deal with language packs. And my recommendation there is simply to stick to an English OS only, and then add in the language packs that you can download from the volume license site or Visual Studio, etc., and have the sequence automatically detect where you want them and inject them. And there are some challenges here, because if you would go to a sequence, let's see, I have some language patch stuff here that I was working on. First of all, Microsoft messed up 22H2 royally in terms of language packs. So if you inject a language pack during imaging, no matter how you do it, offline, online, does not matter, you have to apply the CU afterwards. The same CU that is already in the image. Otherwise it breaks. You do not have to do that for 21H2 or older. So that's a feature in 22H2. But language packs these days can be as simple as, so here's the Swedish language pack. This will actually install that language pack at runtime. This is one of the new commandlets that came in August last year that will allow you to install a language pack ad hoc without any package. It will come directly down from Microsoft Update, and then I'm setting the preferred language to Sweden. So that's one way of doing it. Another option is to inject it earlier. So for example, this command line here will happily smack in the Swedish language pack on the device in the WinP phase. And the command line that follows smacks in the language, the cumulative update directly after. Because again, if you don't do this, you're going to see something fun in Swedish later down the road when you try to deploy that machine. But the challenge with sequences is every time you reference a package, it will be listed here as a reference package. And that needs to be available at deployment time. Otherwise, you get a failure. But you can do that dynamically. You can have script requesting a package. That's dynamic package content, exactly what solutions like the Drive Automation tool is using, where you have a script that is just searching for the package, the right package, and tell the sequence, you know what, I want this package, thank you. At that point, it obviously needs to be available in the distribution point, but it means that all 14 language packs that you have doesn't have to be on all DPs. You can be selective. So if you have a distribution point in the APAC region, you can deploy the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean language packs to those DPs. And for those over in Europe, you can deploy whatever French, German, UK language packs. And that kind of takes care of that problem. So plenty of options available, but just watch out that if you do install them in 22H2 or Windows 10, congratulations, you have to apply the very same language pack as the image, or dang it, the same cumulative update that you have in your image has to be applied once more. Otherwise, it will fail. Other options, of course, using OSD Builder. I tested that process, not on that one, but on this one seems sluggish for today. This one here, I believe. Swedish language pack. There we go. Here, where a few lines of PowerShell will take an ISO, generate a new content pack with the language pack, and generate a new media based on that language pack. So that's one way of doing it as well. But this is not dynamic. Now you're cramming it into the image, increasing the image size a little bit. It's not terrible. Most language packs are 30, 40 megs in size. It doesn't add up too much. But yeah. Here we are.
Great
right,
stuff.
What else?
So Siva is also asking another question that I think you may have asked a while back, or related question about KVMs. Bought a KVM, learning to set it up. Do I need a CIM? It does not come with the box. So basically the PC network still goes to the network switch, but the CIM has RJ45 that goes to the KVM switch. Is that correct? I don't know if you have any experience with that, Johan. I do not.
I know that particular Raritan model does have IP-based KVM capabilities, but I don't have one I can that I have available and can test. So I do not know. There was some licenses connected to that. I could buy X number of users available to use that thing, but I wouldn't know. I would have to recommend and go back to the Raritan support and ask. I did get a little cool toy though. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but maybe if I do this, get rid of that screen, and this is like a one port VM switch, but it's IP based, so it can be anywhere. Don't need to have a really long HDMI cable. Can have a 900 feet Ethernet cable if I wanted to.
That's awesome. Have you played around with it much yet?
No, not yet. It's on my to-do list.
All right.
At some point.
The very long to-do list.
Very much so.
All right. Good stuff. Well, I'm looking forward to whenever you get the opportunity to play with that. I'll be excited to hear about that. All right. Jamal is asking, thank you, Jamal. He said, hello, great job helping here. I'm in a multi-domain environment. Would you need a software update point in each domain, or is one SUP sufficient? Company size is less than 7,000 clients to manage.
That's one of those lovely it depends type of scenarios. The easiest way to deal with multiple domains in ConfigMgr is to have them actually trust each other, a two-way trust in between. However, the reason many organizations have multiple domains is they want to do the exact opposite. They don't want to have that trust. And it is absolutely possible to install or deploy user-facing roles like distribution point and software update points in remote, untrusted domains. So the System Center dudes, let me bring up that post. It's one of the best guides that I've seen on the topic, but it basically takes you through some of the caveats that you may run into when having to deal with this. And even though this is a few years old, it actually haven't changed much in the ConfigMgr space. So highly recommend going through that one in terms of a good resource. So we'll share this link, of course, but it is doable if you put your heart into it. All right. Any other questions out there?
We've got a good 29 minutes to go. Do you find anything good and interesting during Prime Day?
I haven't even looked. I was just out of my no. no time. But maybe hard to see now because it's getting a little bit. But the boy came down with a 4-leaf clover earlier today.
Oh, cool.
As a luck for the tornadoes that we were supposed to have this evening. So hopefully it doesn't work.
Hopefully, I would be willing to get through the evening without any funnel clouds. I'd be happy with that outcome.
Yep, me too. I've had my fair share of falling trees for the next 4 decades or so.
Yeah, you've met your quota.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we had another question come in. Trying to use a PowerShell script to halt MDT deployment when secure boot is not enabled on a PC. Wondering if you have tried this or have a recommendation.
I have not, but it's really easy to halt an MDT sequence. Let me share my screen. I can definitely show you how to do that. So basically, the question is regarding detecting a certain condition if something is not enabled. So you will have to look out the script to detect whether secure boot is enabled or not. A bit of PowerShell should help you do that, unless there is one of the built-in variables for it that I don't remember on the top of my head. But I do have a P02 I can try with. So I'm going to mount this on an MDT media because I'm lazy. And that is good when you do deployments because it means you want to automate a lot. So you can be even more lazy. So let's see what this one says when it comes up. Shouldn't take too long, assuming the server is running. Probably should I check that first. It is. Life is good.
And just with some quick Googling, Johan, it does look like there's a confirm-secure boot UEFI commandlet that will check for that very condition.
In WinPE.
That I do not know. Great point.
Let me see what we have here. What I like about MDT is that it actually stores all the variables in clear text, unlike ConfigMgr that absolutely does not. Nothing for secure boot so far. Not in this one, at least. Might be that it detects that later when it tries to do partitioning and whatnot. Let me start the deployment and see what happens. Because here it actually formats the hard drive and do some other stuff. See if I can open up that again. I mean, I know there is one for UEFI. So that one is there. But it might not be one for secure boot. So you would have to figure out a code snippet that will tell you if it's secure boot and return a variable. And then in your sequence, you would basically do something like this. Where you have like a break me, and you run your favorite breaking command foo.vbs that does not exist and it will break the sequence, and you put a condition on it. condition on it. You know, if my secure boot variable exists or is equals to true, then go ahead and break the sequence. Or you can do it even earlier. You can do it in a user exit script. You can have it way before you even select the sequence. So something like this, where you would here, where you tell your Bootstrap ini file that lives in the boot image to actually run a script and act accordingly, and that script can break things. It can set the was installed equals no variable, which is actually one of the default variables in MDT. So definitely doable. I just don't have any ready-made example for secure boot.
All right. I had a feeling you've broken an MDT test sequence or two on purpose.
Both. Most times actually not on purpose, but I mean, there are a few secure boot commandlets in WinPE. There definitely are. They are here. Features. Yeah, these guys.
So I wonder if that one would show up.
Surprised if not, any of those would actually tell me where the secure boot is up and running or not. If only there was a way to get a PowerShell prompt in WinPE and check. See if I can make this a little bit bigger for the people on the sheep spot. Let's see. Can we guess secure something? Would that be an educated guess?
I think so.
Confirm secure boot UFI, get secure. That one looks pretty promising to me. Okay, star. No, they did not like that.
So the confirm secure boot UEFI, that will return either a true or false for the local host, it looks like.
What was the name? Confirm dash secure boot. Mm-hmm. You're a genius, sir. Always. Yeah, you can run this one and have it set a variable and or break the sequence or whatever. Problem solved.
Look at that. Love it when a plan comes together.
Yep. Real-time research. Real-time research.
That's right.
Hey,
that's the fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Tony is asking on YouTube, is there a best practice for deleting a collection that has a service window configured? The collection was removed, but the clients retain the service window policy. How can we clear it?
I'm assuming there is some sort of CI that is left behind, but I do not know.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything clever there either off the top of my head.
I mean, there are probably ways to delete it. I'm not sure if there are any supported ways to delete it. Not something I have stumbled across. Mm-hmm. If anyone watching happen to know how to delete a Windows policy or service Windows policy that this is lingering, even though the collection is deleted, please let us know.
Yeah. All right. Ryan is asking, when deploying Windows 11 22H2, how are you dealing with smart app control? So I haven't really.
In terms of policies, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Well, how do you read that question?
That's my assumption as well, and I don't think that I've got anything that I'm explicitly managing that yet at this point.
I know how to ask, but he's probably sleeping right now. We have our friends over in Belgium, Kim Oppalfens and Tom Degreef. They are actually doing trainings on this particular topic only. I know they have a training coming up in September over in Europe. But no, I don't have any good guidance on that. I would have to refer to either Kim or Tom on that one.
Yeah, I'm just poking around a bit and seeing if I can come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this will. I don't know if this entirely answers the question, just because I haven't, like I said, I haven't been managing it much myself. But Peter Vanderwood has a blog post on using Smart App Control as a starting point for Defender App Control. I don't know if this will help with that specific question, but Peter's always got some really clever solutions as well. So I would maybe take a look there to see if that's a helpful starting point. I can throw this link in our links for this evening. So it looks like Peter's just using some little bit of PowerShell, little XML, and some Intune. So Ryan, maybe that will help. I'll throw the link in there for this evening, and you can give that a look.
Awesome sauce.
All right. So Jim joined us today. Hey, Jim, with he's asking on YouTube, with the new driver update option in Intune, is there a way to see what devices have the old drivers? I have a lot of out-of-date drivers, but have no idea what machines will be affected. So, well, you could see when I was playing around earlier, this is about as far as I've gotten so far, and I'm still playing around, seeing how I can figure out, even when I have my 3060, my 13060 that I have in my tenant, when I have a policy assigned to that, I only really have other drivers there.
I think I have a few in my tenant. I was also playing around with this at some point.
Okay.
Let me steal the screen and actually log into my tenant.
Yeah, because I wonder if this is, does the UI expose, if you have 10 devices that you have a profile assigned to, 5 of them have already been updated. And there's another 5 that maybe have the old drivers that need to be updated. Is there a way for us to tell?
No, not really, because it will only show the device drivers that have been scanned or scanned as missing on these devices. So you may have multiple of these that may affect, and it's becomes complicated where you have been like not good at updating drivers at all, and you have devices that are like 4 years old without a driver update, and you have new ones that just came with driver updates, and you'll have to figure out what is what. But I think time will also tell how this evolves. This is brand new, fresh out of the door. The various OEMs out there in the world is still publishing way too little information up to Microsoft Update that these solutions are tapping into for be really valuable. I mean, the classes here drives me nuts. Every driver that is uploaded, they have a class because you can't really submit the driver without one. But that's not how they are uploading that information to Microsoft. Instead, they can type in what class it is in like a text box. So it's like, no, it's in the driver, use it. But we'll see what happens. But this is what I have to review the drivers. So we can discuss the namings here, but yeah, approve it in a certain time, and that's it.
Yeah, I think another great point that there are improvements coming and things like that is I happened to come across a tweet from Aria, I think yesterday, and there was some good conversation around it, that the deadline for quality updates in your update ring applies to drivers. So a lot of some of the conversation led to that's awesome, but then we obviously have to time when we're approving our drivers, right? And Aria acknowledged yes, and we're working to improve that so that you don't get into a double reboot situation in the future. But I think that's just one thing that's to your point of we should see improvements, continue giving that feedback, and hopefully some of those gaps get filled.
I did find the link for the training I mentioned on the WDAC for application control. It was this one here. That one kicks off in September this year.
Awesome.
So highly recommended.
2 more guys that really know their stuff.
They know their stuff.
All right. Diego is asking on YouTube, is there any way to integrate Apple School Manager with Intune? And I can answer, yes, there is. Though neither one of us, our iOS or Mac OS management experts, I have integrated Apple School Manager with Intune in the past. And so the Microsoft documentation on that is fairly straightforward. If you want to pop up my screen, Johan, there you go. Thank you. Documentation is fairly straightforward. I'll just share this link. It's going to do a better job of explaining it than I will, because you do have to do a couple of things. There's a token from the Intune side, and I believe a token on the Apple School Manager side that you'll need to configure in both portals, and we'll have to update on, I believe, an annual basis, and then monitor through the connectors and tokens portion of your tenant, of your Intune admin center over here. So here we go. Apple VPP tokens, I think, is what you'll have to keep an eye out on. But I will be happy to share this link. Pretty straightforward process.
Yeah.
All right. Great questions.
Yep.
Love it.
Any other questions? We still have a whooping 9 more minutes available. Celebrated this Wednesday with my favorite Good Dogs Brent cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Twitter account called We Rate Dogs. It's been very, very popular. And when that account started, there was a gentleman who basically went in and commented and said, "This is stupid. Why do you do this?" And they were not letting him get away with that so easily. So that became like a phenomena. And t-shirts and hats and mugs, apparently. So if you want a good read for the weekend, find that old post because it's hilarious.
Okay. Yeah. Who would hate on rating dogs? 10 out of 10 almost every time.
Yeah, but their specialty is they do with 14 out of 10. And that's what set him
Even
off.
better.
Yeah. Oh, Jim is coming back here strong on YouTube. Thoughts on Entra is the comment. My response is not pleased. Not with the product, but with the naming.
Yeah, specifically the rename, right?
Drives me nuts. Yep. Hopefully it will land at some point, but right now I'm just why?
Will take a little bit of getting used to for sure. Not the first rename drama we've been through before.
Yeah, but I know that for the next 10 years, when I'm looking up information about it, I was looking for a problem or something, a technical article, I would still have to search for the old name.
Yeah.
I did a Google search on it yesterday. 36 million records for Azure AD. And it's like, yeah, they are probably not going to change all of those. I'm pretty sure a few of them will still stick with the old name.
I would think so. It's kind of funny. I just did another test. If you search for Microsoft SCCM,
Yeah.
I binged it.
Yeah, that was your mistake.
Whoops. Let's try this again. Microsoft SCCM, 44.5 million results.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
It's funny.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
27 years later.
Yeah.
I think the first SMS was released in 94, 95, give or take. 94 even, yeah.
If that's to be believed.
I think so. They had a video a few years back, the 25th anniversary, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Coming up on 30 soon. Yep. I wonder if you will ever see ConfigMgr turn 50. That would be so awesome.
Yes, that would. Definitely deserving of a big birthday bash, I would say.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 4 more minutes. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't see any more questions coming in, so count to 7 and then call it a day.
Sounds good.
I think that was pretty much 7. So Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Thank you for the many great questions. Thank you, Andrew, as usual. And we hope to see you again next Wednesday. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, sir, and thanks everybody for joining. Have a great rest of your week.